at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media platforms we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, the name to find us there. Honestly, either of those names, most of those places, you're going to be able to find us and join in on the conversation that we have about all the things that affect us here in the borderland, though a little bit further beyond that, as we do here on Fridays. If you happen to be unfamiliar, Friday is the day that we declare we are going to be having open lines and open conversation throughout the entire program, because it is free-for-all Friday. So we'll take on any subject, just particularly if you're going to call in. Well, keep it clean is all I'm going to say, because we will dump it and move on, because we got a lot to get to, and we can't worry about all those pesky FCC, not quite blowing up the station, but might feel like it from here. So just keep it clean. Remember your deadly words and not to say them. But otherwise, you can call in at any point during the show. All phone lines are open, and that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of stuff going on here today. Something just going on as of this moment here, that there are strange circumstances going on in the Erica Gaitan murder trial, with a release and more news conferences going on right now. So we'll hopefully be getting some updates from our news partners over at KFOX 14 here shortly and on air. So we'll see what's going on with all of that. But otherwise, it has been an incredibly busy week. I mean, just think about some of the impacts that we're looking at. Focusing on the land of enchantment here for just a second, a little bit more than we usually do, but I think we ignored that to our peril. Of course, this has been the first full week of legalized recreational marijuana within the land of enchantment, becoming very enchanted indeed, I suppose. If you've had a lot of friends spending a lot more time in Southern Park in New Mexico, well, you might have just learned something that you didn't intend to otherwise. But also, after that very quick special session of the Texas legislature, a new economic relief package being signed by New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, showing payments of up to $1,500 depending on your status in a household, if you're either the head of household or a dependent kind of thing here. $500 for single filers and $1,000 for joint filers. And so it'll depend on the range. It gets technical, so we can get into that. But that's just one aspect here. Also, of course, within Texas, we have had this back and forth on border security and immigration issues that has, it reached all the way to the national stage. And a lot of, I think, even focuses, even with some of the news updates we get to. So it has been just a little bit of a busy one. So let's open up those phone lines here. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Right now, I do believe we have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. About 2 weeks ago, I brought up a Russian oligarch by the name of Victor Vekselberg.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that his yacht was seized the other day, and he had ties to a Silicon Valley type project called Skokovo, which developed the technology to give the Russians a hypersonic missile, which can deploy it, and from which we have no defense for. Well, Matt Gaetz was questioning the head of the Defense Department, General Lloyd Austin, the other day, about why they have this technology and we don't. And he got very, very defensive about this, Lloyd Austin did. Now, I wonder why. Could it be that Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation had ties to funding the Skokovo project? And that 17 out of 28 tech companies that hooked up with the project also contributed to the Clinton Foundation? And to wrap things all up, Barack Obama at the time was supporting Russia's admission into the WTO, making this arrangement go a lot easier.
So I get what you're saying. There are concerns about tech transfer here. I mean, I'm just taking kind of a longer perspective at it, is we have had a lot of potential weapons programs within the defense industry. I mean, just naming a few, hypersonic missiles is kind of the one of the moment here, but the idea of rail guns, propellantless weapon systems that have been languishing for years here. So I took a little bit, I did see some of that in some of the defense industry stuff I follow from the Gates and Austin kind of sparring match going on there, more as frustration with how that has proceeded, because I'm not sure of any defense person or people involved in the defense industry that like the idea of being outgunned. So I took a little bit about that, but from your point of perspective about the potential of a sharing of information and that, I'd be a little bit more concerned, honestly, about it from the Chinese side of things. But, I mean, Russia has also shown its own propensity for, well, wanting to take whatever it can and then claiming for its own here, as has been seen in recent weeks here. Now, if these kind of things happen, I mean, I've seen some allegations to that end, but not much concrete to what you're getting at. I mean, if that were to be true, yeah, that would amount to essentially treason.
There is a lot of information about that, and it's going to come out. And that's the reason why they want to shut down any kind of talk about hypersonic missiles and everything. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You're absolutely right. The Clinton Foundation had the ties to Russia and also the Ukraine, China. Oh, yeah. The Biden crime family had ties to Ukraine and Russia and also China. These people have, I mean, for money and for their their ability to gain power and money, they've sold our country out. And it's going. Hopefully, these things are starting to come out. And this has been well known. If you really would like to hear about all this, all you have to do is listen to Dan Bongino's podcast on a regular basis. You get all this stuff, or read his book.
Right, yeah. I follow Dan Bongino in his own way. I disagree with some of the way he goes about things, but he gives a good presentation in his own right here. I mean, I will say that the U.S., I think it's been kind of, in general, pretty bashful in this whole hypersonic missile situation. I mean, if you really want to go back to the whole, even the Star Wars in terms of the Reagan era policies, not the movie, has been, the idea of missile defense has been, even just the threat of it has been kind of cornerstone and can be pretty widely, I think, pointed to as a direct reason that the Soviet Union ended up, well, following the way it did. One of many contributing factors, obviously. So the idea of there being a system that could circumvent any missile defense system that is out there today, and I mean, we're looking at this whole, just speaking a little bit more broadly about the entire idea of the technology, looking at a bit more of the back and forth pendulum swinging from defensibility to offensive ability, because I mean, the entire idea of hypersonic missiles that, Mach 7 and above here, there have been some apparently quiet U.S. missile tests along this lines, but I mean, I'm still mildly dubious about Russia's true capability. There have been some videos I've seen coming out of the whole Ukrainian conflict that purport to be these, and again, I'm a little bit dubious because there hasn't been, of all of the open source information that has come out of that, this is one of the least reported things. So maybe this was a proof of concept for them. But I mean, there have also been more than a couple of pretty wild weapons programs being described by the Russians, including like a supercavitating underwater cruise missiles that a lot of it might be bluster, but this one does seem to be, well, probably the next arms race, along with potentially, and this one is a little bit further far-fetched, but seems to be continually coming up, the idea of anti-satellite warfare, which is a whole nother subject to broach.
Andrew and the rest of the people who are listening to this, look up the Skokovo project. Just look it up online, and you can learn all about it. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not something that is not backed up by facts and all the things that are going on. We can't allow people to destroy our country this way. We can't do it.
I fully agree with you on that point. Absolutely here. So I appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one.
You too. Take care.
All right.
God bless.
Up, absolutely here. And again, we are going to be taking those calls and comments throughout the hour here. So if you wanted to add on your 2 cents, again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. More comments coming in online. John Brazelton chiming in saying, all border state governors should ship illegals to Washington, D.C. beginning next month. Unfortunately, the California and New Mexico governors are leftist Democrats, and Ducey is a rhino. I just kind of laugh anytime I hear about Ducey, that being the governor of Arizona you're referring to there, because when I was able to sit in on the Garrett Lewis program based out of Tucson, he had a very particular name. I don't have any compunction against it. Ducifer is the name that he used from his perspective. I tend not to resort to such issues, but, well, let's just say that there are certainly perspectives on some of these individuals here. But again, it has been an incredibly busy news week, and so we'll delve into it even further coming out of this break here. You are again tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. We are doing that Free for All Friday thing. So if you're wanting to call in during the show, make your own comment, call whatever you want to do. The number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. More comments and such after this break. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Loma Land, look for an injury accident on the on-ramp. That's off right, but slowing traffic. I-10 eastbound between Artcraft and Thorne, it's slow and go traffic with 5-minute delays. George Dieter northbound at Montana, an injury accident just showing up, and police responding to an accident Northern Pass eastbound at Paseo del Norte. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Market Disruptors Live May 6th through May 8th in Dallas, Texas. In these uncertain times, it's never been more important to grow your wealth and protect your freedom. Learn how to do that and more with today's top experts at Market Disruptors Live, May 6th through the 8th in Dallas, Texas. Save your spot now at marketdisruptorslive.com.
Paid for by government.com.
Have you heard? The United States Mint has issued the Morgan Silver Dollar for the first time in 100 years. Not only that, but they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 175,000 legal tender silver dollars were issued. These Morgan Silver Dollars are brand new, bright and shiny legal tender coins minted by the iconic Philadelphia Mint. Just call 1-800-973-3098 and you are guaranteed a new 99.9% pure silver Morgan dollar. The first time in history this has happened. But with limited quantities, you must call now to order. To learn more, call 1-800-973-3098. If you order now, you will receive a free collector bonus, a $25 value free with every order. Call 1-800-973-3098 now to secure your new Morgan Silver Dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-3098.
Hey, spring is here, and the warmer weather means you've got a lot more going on. Don't let COVID get in the way of any of it. COVID vaccines offer the strongest possible protection now and from long-term side effects in the future. Protect yourself and your plans. We can do this. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. That's vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Economists are warning that sanctions against Russia could trigger devastating inflation, worse than the current 40-year highs. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to protect your savings right now with a gold IRA through Birch Gold, the only company I trust for gold. Just text the word SECURE to 989898 to get a free info kit on how to protect your savings with gold. So text the word SECURE to 989898.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on our various social pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. A lot of ways you can interact with the show through all of that, making your comments over there. John Browsett and others tuning in, chiming in over there. Plus, also, those phone lines are open throughout both hours of the show here, because So for Friday, anyone who isn't familiar with the concept here, the way we do it is that during the rest of the week, we are very focused on the impacts we see here in the borderland and a little bit choosy about our topics that comes along with that, because out of the many things going on, how it's going to affect us here is, well, very important to me, and I think something we need to focus more on. But there's a whole lot more than we can even get to in 2 hours each day. So this is the point in the week when we open that up, and we'll take on all comments and calls here. Just keep it clean if you're calling in here. FCC still applies for the radio part of the broadcast. That's why we do also take the comments over on the social media. It just makes sense. And, well, I appreciate the interaction here. So if you want to chime in all of those ways, again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, you'll be able to find us on most of those platforms. Plus, that number to call right now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And a lot of stuff going on this week as it is. Just back on that issue of other border issues, just to touch on here. Not much chatter out of, well, the local law enforcement, essentially anything more than has already been in place in terms of, again, El Paso was a lot of focus on us in this last week or two about the start of the recreational sales of marijuana in New Mexico. So hasn't seemed to see a real explosion, even if there have been hundreds of thousands of dollars more or differently being spent, I think is an interesting way to put it here. But of course, one of the major focuses has absolutely been on, well, statewide border security efforts of the international kind. And one of the ones catching the most headlines this past week was, of course, Governor Greg Abbott in the wake of the announcement of the removal, sunsetting, depending on how you want to put it, of Title 42, the Trump-era immigration policy related to the pandemic and restrictions therein, and the removal of that being going away in late May. Of course, there was a lot of consternation, a lot of concern. I mean, the impacts to our area are going to be undeniable. Even some of the things coming out from, say, County Judge Ricardo Samaniego saying that we've been ready for this for about 3 years, and that if about 8,000 people come through our area, give or take, we'll be able to handle it. I would love to know more of those details, because I find myself more than a little bit dubious on that. But of course, the one catching the most headlines from Texas Governor Greg Abbott, the idea of busing them to D.C., the people that are, well, being caught and arrested and would otherwise be turned around by Title 42 and other policies as well, busing them to the steps of D.C. and letting them out there. Of course, more details have come out about that. I mean, I said at the time, as he initially announced it, that this is going to be, I mean, it's a hell of a political statement, any way you slice it. And of course, more details have come out about this being a voluntary thing. I mean, a lot of the technicalities, if you're moving people across state lines and you're not the federal government doing that and they don't otherwise have authorization, I mean, the problems abound. So he has come out and clarified that this would be a voluntary program, both on the part of, well, localities, but also specifically of the people who would be loaded on the buses themselves. So, I mean, it certainly grabs some headlines, but whether it's that feasible or going to have that much of an impact, you know, if it actually moves through, essentially chartering buses, I wouldn't be surprised if some localities and municipalities, even some people have talked with in the past, particularly in like the central of the border area, Del Rio, might be taking them up on that. Otherwise, we'll see what actually happens with it. I mean, it was kind of a stunt, but in the bringing attention to it kind of a way is the way I intend to mean that. But also one other policy coming out and being talked about more in order to increase vehicle inspections along the border here. The Texas Tribune with an article out today about that order could hurt local economies. That kind of an impact would be seen very much around here locally. But, well, frankly, El Paso has had a solution to that kind of a concept for a while. I mean, balancing security with, you know, the availability of trade. Because if you, I mean, as some people have called for, just shut down everything, we're going to have a bad time. I got to tell you right now, again, an estimates put it around, about 25% of all jobs in the borderland region related to trade and the availability of it. So just impacting. But the way that we've dealt with this previously is some people's favorite phrase out there, public-private partnerships, essentially some public funds, essentially private funds going towards public services, in this case, towards more open lanes and more border security agents, CBP specifically in this case, allowing for a greater, facilitating faster and further inspections of otherwise, essentially more trunk lines being put into the ability to facilitate that movement here without necessarily compromising security, though that's always going to be a concern here. But let's get back to those phone lines now. Again, if you're wanting to call in during the show, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Got a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Raul.
Hey there, Raul. What's on your mind?
Hey, great. Another great thing that the state of New Mexico has done. Now they're going to give free college educations to their residents. That's awesome, you know. And I wish we were part of New Mexico. Again, I mean, we'd be so much better off than part of stupid Texas, you know. And New Mexico is a poor state compared to Texas, which is a rich state with the nation's second largest GDP and the second most populous state in the nation. As you know, in the lottery of life, no one picks their parents and the zip code their parents live in. Now, Andrew, I want you to imagine this. Do a little thought experiment with me. Now, imagine having had to pick between being born to the average white family or the average black family in America. Which one would you pick?
I mean, if we're talking about absolutely something that is someone not having any control about, I mean, there are different. If you're trying to get to the idea of the, well, socioeconomic status you might find yourself in, I mean, stats are pretty apparent at this here. And part of the problems that do need to be addressed in this country, but it's also been no secret that there have been a lot of issues. I mean, the lottery of life, as you say, it tends to be a little bit more skewed one way or the other, but I mean, you can find yourselves in interesting and unfortunate situations across the racial spectrum, if that's what you're going for here.
Well, since you couldn't answer my question or chose not to, I would choose to be born to the average white family over the average black family, taking into account all the demographics, history, and statistics about the well-being of the average white family versus the black family in America. Conversely, suppose you had to choose to be, again, same situation, except in a country where the overwhelming majority of the people were black. Which one would you want to be born to? I mean, again, since you won't answer my question, but I would say, in that case, the black. I want to be born black in a society, in a world where the majority of the people were black, because of the way human beings historically have treated each other. It's sad to say that they discriminate against people of a different color, or sometimes of a different religion, or from a different country that they come to. So I'll leave it at that. Hey, a lot of news, as you say, a lot of news this week. You know, the New York Attorney General is going to hold Donald Trump in contempt, civil contempt. The House Investigating Committee has asked the Department of Justice to prosecute ex-Trump aides Navarro and Scavino for snubbing their committee. Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner spent hours testifying before the January 6th committee. I guess they'll be asked about that General Kellogg's account of having to ask Trump to call off his mob, but he didn't do it, and asking Ivanka 3 times to go do it. The Department of Justice plans to investigate the 15 boxes of classified secret government records that Trump took to Mar-a-Lago. Remember the big fuss that Trump made of Hillary's missing emails, asking his friend Putin in Russia to help find them, and rousing the lemmings in his belt to their chant of lock her up?
I do recall that, but I'm also recalling something that happened during the Trump administration itself that was interesting responses that happened to it. But the idea of actually it was, want to say it might have been the Soviet foreign minister. Sorry, not Soviet. That's a Freudian slip on my part here. We're talking so much about it. But the current Russian foreign minister Lavrov, I want to say it was, or someone in a very similar position, where something was said that was considered classified was said there. But that's the also interesting wrinkle you got to remember about, well, the presidency is that essentially it is his right to classify or declassify information. I mean, as the head of the executive branch that does that, essentially sits at the top of it here. So, I mean, sure, worth investigating. The idea of secret materials being stored, well, that's an issue that happens regardless of who's handling it. If it's not being stored properly, I've had some hand in looking into those situations in other lines of work here. And yeah, I mean, if it should be investigated during the idea of the Clinton entire, not even administration, but presence in that office at that point in time, yeah, it bears looking into. But again, slightly different circumstances we're talking about here, I do want to say here. But to your kind of initial point here about the idea of choosing to be within the majority of a country here, again, it's almost it's an interesting thought experiment, but saying what would you choose is something, again, that we don't get to. I mean, that's just not reality here. And oftentimes, frankly, the discussion of race, and even if you were, I mean, there are some examples that go against what you're saying here. The idea of, South Africa, amongst others, where being in the majority was not exactly in your favor because of the idea of a small select minority essentially taking control of it. And really that gets down to the core of the issue. If you really want to talk race relations here for a minute, the idea that essentially, well, the color of your skin determines your lot in life, I find myself rejecting in general, if only because, among other things, the discussion of race often ends up becoming a cover for a discussion about class and position in society. Because, well, there has been a lot that has happened over the years. The idea that essentially if you can keep people fighting amongst themselves because there are differences between them, not exactly for where they find themselves on the socioeconomic scale, well, they'll just stick there as it is. So that's why I find that kind of a discussion not useful in analyzing our situation and looking at what we need to do to improve it for everyone involved. Because, yeah, there are also plenty of, well, poor people of all stripes and colors here. And I know more than a few people that have bristled at the idea that just because of the color of their skin, they haven't had difficulties in their life. And that's definitely not what I talk about when it comes to this. But, I mean, seriously, the idea that this is the only paramount issue here often ends up missing the point entirely in my mind here. So thank you for the point in the call, but interesting points to be made here. A lot more comments and calls coming in here. I know we got some on the line right now, but we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we will get to, well, more calls and more comments on the line here, because that's what we do here on Friday for Free for All Friday. Again, that number to call if you want to, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Stephanie Seyfert with your daily KFOX 14 News update. A mistrial was declared for the man who was accused of killing Erika Gaitan. That's according to the district attorney's office and the court reporter. The trial for Ricardo Marquez began Friday at the county courthouse. Marquez was charged for Gaitan's murder following her disappearance in 2019. She was last seen leaving a concert at the El Paso County Coliseum. Marquez was arrested and charged with her murder following her disappearance. We're working to find out why the case was declared a mistrial. Fort Bliss is reporting a problem with the water supply at William Boma Army Medical Center. The Post says hospital-wide testing revealed evidence of discoloration and sediment in the water. Fort Bliss adds the problem lies within the hospital's plumbing and not the supply coming from El Paso water. For more on these stories, visit kfoxtv.com. I'm Stephanie Seyfert with your KFOX 14 News update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
A crash with injuries might slow you down if you're on the I-10 westbound at Lee Trevino. Your alternates are one exit earlier, Zaragoza, to avoid possible delays. Loop 375 southbound at Vista del Sol, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. I-10 eastbound between Artcraft and Thorne, 5 to 10 minute delays. And an injury accident just showing up George Dieter northbound at eastbound Montana Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
In Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We've got clear skies tonight with temperatures in the lower to mid 40s and light winds, but get ready for this weekend and next week. We're talking about winds in the forecast, a stretch of winds, the chance for some patchy blowing dust starting on Sunday, lasting through Tuesday, with temperatures remaining well above average over the weekend.
This report is sponsored by the Market Disruptors Live May 6th through May 8th in Dallas, Texas. In these uncertain times, it's never been more important to grow your wealth and protect your freedom. Learn how to do that and more with today's top experts at Market Disruptors Live, May 6th through the 8th in Dallas, Texas. Save your spot now at marketdisruptorslive.com.
The True Crime Podcast, What Happened to Sandy Beale, investigates the alarming death of a young woman who dreamed of a career in law enforcement. Journalist Melissa Jeltsin untangles the mystery at the heart of the investigation, revealing a troubling pattern by officials close to the case.
I didn't take any of that crap because I could tell that they were hiding something.
Listen to What Happened to Sandy Beale on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 on News Radio 690 KTSM, breaking down the impact of the news on the borderland and beyond. Brought to you in part by Mission Del Rey Southwest, Souvenirs, Gifts, and Decor. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
In these uncertain times, it's never been more important to grow your wealth and protect your freedom. Learn how to do that and more with today's top experts at Market Disruptors Live, May 6th through the 8th in Dallas, Texas. Save your spot now at marketdisruptorslive.com. This report is sponsored by the Market Disruptors Live May 6th through May 8th in Dallas, Texas.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
If you're a single man under the age of 35, you'd probably like to know what the ladies are looking for on an online dating site. A guy who had a few drinks and later got pulled over for buzzed driving. See, that could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And doesn't a guy who's back living with his parents but calls them my roommates just scream Mr. Right?
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in there. You got Carell Rank, if I'm saying that right, James Radcliffe, John Brazelton, and more tuning in, chiming in. Mr. Tipton dropping the reaction there on the Facebook. We do appreciate that so much here. A lot of commentary. John Brazelton saying, among other things, more traffic lines at various El Paso and New Mexico ports of entry. He clarified also as well, land ports requires more customs, agricultural, and INS inspectors. Where are they going to come from? Almost all ports of entry are undermanned at present. Again, as it was pointed out in recent weeks, shall we say, INS not exactly an agency anymore, but yeah, CBP, ICE, and all of those definitely requiring some staffing here. Actually, a quick search here came up with a report back from 2015 on the public-private partnership that, again, the city of El Paso and some others had taken up. Some of the agencies involved here, but they actually cited that El Paso, for example, during periods when CBP provided enhanced services, private vehicle volume increased by 26%, while wait times remained constant. Pedestrian volume increased by 16%, while average wait time decreased by 36% in that category. So, again, different circumstances. We're all talking about last decade that I got that easy data here, but I'm sure there's more to get into from that. And among other things, well, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, don't do it. Some other comments here, including on what's going on, some of those statewide things, the DOJ case against the gentleman in Michigan who were accused of trying to kidnap the governor. Two of them acquitted of the charges here, saying that the left needs to give it up and focus on real issues. Glad these guys were found innocent. Just going to say, don't do stupid things online, among other things. Not exactly trying to do a victim blaming kind of thing here, but if you're making big talk, because that's essentially what the gentleman had argued through their lawyers in court, that no, this was serious. We were just talking big while drunk, among other things. I mean, let that be a lesson to you as well. But, entrapment was a part of the case there. A whole lot more comments as well. And more comments coming in about the bullying from other places as well. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, the number to call if you want to, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Zeke over in Central here right now. Zeke, thanks for calling.
Yeah, Zeke, I just want to comment. I remember when up to 8-9 years ago, they used to let kids or even adults or teenagers sell, raffle tickets or candy or candy apples or ice cream on, on the parking lots. And somebody in the sector might have did not like it, so they went up to city council and they didn't let them do that. They prohibited it from them. And I used to like to buy candy even outside the credit unions or the banks. People wouldn't say anything, but I think that was very, very, very cruel what they did to not only to the teams, but also to the churches, and because how can they raise funds? You know what? I wish I could. And it happened during the time when Elmer Fudd was, that's what I call him, was mayor. But I don't know if he had anything to do with it. But to me, he was a poor mayor. But I call him Elmer Fudd because he looks like what I thought about Cook. But I think that's what that happened.
Okay.
How can people be so cruel? That you're trying to churches and organizations trying to, raise money and they can't, I
Mhm.
never said anything bad about them. Or I enjoyed buying candy or cakes or whatever they were selling, and that was the most cruel. That was the most cruel thing they did to them, And some I know one church that goes to Las Cruces to sell cakes, because they won't let them here
Oh
in
yeah.
this stupid city, This is a messed up town, man, and it's not that good like it used to be. So have a great day, And we got lousy leadership right now. It's all been a circus of leadership in the city and county. Have a great day.
I appreciate the point of the call. You have a good one there as well. Again, just as an opportune time as ever to remind people that we do have some city elections coming up towards the end of this year, November, on a nonpartisan ballot. So therefore, we didn't get it on the primaries here, but we got 4 city council seats that are going to be up for election. Some initial filings, some familiar names that have come into some of them, including Joe Pickett, I believe, for 2. I'll have to double check here. Don't quote me on that. But I mean, some familiar names. And so probably going to be some interesting races there. We'll probably switch more to focusing on that and the November in general once we get past these, the primary runoffs that we're coming up to here. But you get what you vote for sometimes here. So, I mean, yeah, the whole age-old question of you're really going to put regulation on a lemonade stand, essentially not exactly what you were talking about there, I will grant, but a similar concept at least that really we're going to do something like take it that seriously. I mean, we're talking about an enterprise, like something that is reaching a scale, but I mean, heck, as a kid, I actually didn't do it myself, but I joined up with a friend who stayed at a really good street corner where people had to stop most directions and, sold the lemonade. And he actually cleaned up pretty well during that, bought a scooter off of it, if I remember at the time, back in elementary school. So, I mean, the idea of, sure, public safety is important, but I think scope, scale, and risk, because, I mean, if you're going to a, side stand, you're buying the candy from the people. I mean, if it's wrapped, professionally and not like something they did in their backyard or kitchen kind of thing, I'll trust it a little bit more in that case. But in general, I mean, we also got people that are weaving in and out of traffic with the whole fill the boot thing. And I mean, we've got panhandling laws in this city, but really, I think sometimes think about what the actual impact is and is it worth dealing with it, or is this just a waste of time? A good question to be asked for a lot of city things, I want to say here. Maybe talking more than I should there. But anyway, let's get back to more calls on the line here. Again, thank you for yours. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Calling in the middle of a segment, you might get put on hold briefly, but then we might pop you up like we are right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Andrew from the West Side.
Hey there, Andrew. What's on your mind?
Speaking of education, one of the things I believe we need to have our legislators advocate for is a law school here in El Paso.
Oh, yeah. That's been kind of in the background, in the works. I mean, there's kind of been a trajectory they can point to ever since, the way I look at it anyway, I mean, really could be looking at UTEP in general and the expansion that it has, but in the recent decades anyway, in the most recent ones, looking at the establishment of the, Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, Paul Foster School of Medicine, the increases they've seen in terms of all medical disciplines and including the dental school that is coming up. So I want to say there's been a lot of work on that, and that has kind of been in the back of the minds of, the elected officials I've talked with here. Not too much concrete. I think we've mentioned it a couple of times when it has come up on our air, but it's very much we got to get there first kind of thing here. So I think it is a possibility, but in terms of how soon, that's a reasonable question to ask.
Yes, the last law school established was University of North Texas, Dallas School of Law. And that one... they just graduated, I think, a year ago. I'm sorry, if I'm not mistaken, about a year ago, their first graduating class.
Okay.
Yes. Also, talking about the free tuition in New Mexico,
yes.
I was reading about that, and it's only for the first 2 years from what I saw. Number two, you must maintain a 2.5 grade point average, and it doesn't cover incidentals such as room and board, labs, parking, and other things that arise out of a university, attending a state or a community college or tribal college in New Mexico.
I mean, it's not a total free ride. I mean, there are some countries out there, I want to say, that do a little bit closer to that idea, even for non-residents. But I mean, New Mexico has shown, at least under this current leadership, a propensity for wanting to do a little bit of a experimentation when it comes to their education policies. I mean, on the other side of it, of course, the situations we've discussed when it comes to public education and the people who are going to be able to do it and the pay for them, the teachers or even the National Guard, as it had to be called out here. So I guess I'm not surprised by this, but well, we'll see how it works out for them. I mean, New Mexico is definitely gambling and betting, I guess would be a better way to say it, on the revenues coming from the oil and gas industry. In a recent New York Times article, Michelle Lujan Grisham said that they are expecting a lot of money to come in from that because they built this budget on $60 a barrel of oil. And well, since we're seeing a lot higher than that, even if they have a lot more regulation within the state, again, they're still expecting to see a lot of revenue from it.
Yes, I agree. One other thing, responding to Raul, this is the second time he said about he wishes that El Paso was in New Mexico. Well, nothing's stopping him from moving across the border to New Mexico. This is a free country, and the signal from this radio station reaches out there, and he can always call in on a daily basis. So, like I said, to each his own. Have a good evening.
No, sure thing. Thank you for the point on the call. Do appreciate it. You have a good one as well. Okay, I mean, this is something I've thought about doing the history focus that we also do, and also just comment from John Browston I have to mention here. That's just what El Paso needs, more lawyers. I think I take your point there. But still, I mean, the idea of having a local law school, I mean, we still have some underservedness in a lot of different areas. I think it was a good idea to start with the medical school and all the medical services that are still needed, even if we're still experiencing a decent amount of brain drain when it comes to that as well. Some other comments coming in here as well. Stephen Christopher on the idea of going out and vote, expressing his sentiments against El Paso Congresswoman Veronica Escobar here. And some other comments, Carl Ranka mentioning from Montana, tuning in that way, and sure that his governor would send all the illegals to D.C. in a heartbeat. Again, some interesting possibilities that come and legal challenges that could come up with along with that. But to the whole point of El Paso in New Mexico, I want to say there was a joke when I was growing up that sure, Texas would trade New Mexico for El Paso. They just want Carlsbad Caverns, which felt a little backstabby. But I guess from the perspective of the rest of Texas, particularly at that point in time, the idea of not feeling much value out here from the far west Texas. There actually was the option, to my understanding, the story is a little apocryphal, but the idea of there being, when Texas was joining the Union, among other things, that El Paso could have made the decision on which to actually go with, and that it decided to go with Texas because it was going to be a state as opposed to New Mexico, which was a territory until, well, just after the turn of the century at that point in the 1900s. But I mean, it just as a thought experiment, since we're doing a little bit of that today, I mean, we would be the largest city in New Mexico. We would be the largest economy in New Mexico. And just something I look at in between the differences of the governors, besides politics, is the presence of them. Back in my TV reporting days, Rick Perry wasn't really coming out here except for that one speech about bombs going off in the streets of El Paso versus not Michelle Lujan Grisham. So I am blanking on the name of that governor at the time, but she was actually very present in there, even if she had some of her own issues here. Anyway, she was doing a lot of coverage of the Santa Teresa port of entry and the construction going on out there, and she was out there for a decent number of even just those ribbon cuttings. So, I mean, difference, big fish, little pond, or vice versa kind of thing to be done there. Now, of course, for that to happen in the modern day would be a state upheaval, likes of which we haven't seen, just like period. Like, I think you have to practically go to the Civil War and the break apart of West Virginia from Virginia to find anything even remotely similar. But again, just a what if scenario, I'll put it that way here. So as well, we got a lot more comments coming in here. Maria Coleman saying that many municipalities have enacted laws to protect kids from exploitation. You can still purchase candy, etc., from neighborhood kids accompanied by parents. And also Edgar Ortiz letting us know he's on board. So we'll get to more of those comments and such after this next break, and calls on the line as well, because again, that's our focus today, taking those calls throughout the hours of the program here. So again, if you're wanting to call in, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 10 Gateway westbound at Lee Trevino, an injury accident from earlier has got the lanes clear. The right shoulder still blocked, and it's causing delays. Gateway Boulevard southbound at the I-10, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder. 10 eastbound at Executive Center Boulevard, another stalled vehicle blocking the left side. El Paso medical crew and police on the scene of an injury accident dire north of Sean Haggerty. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Market Disruptors Live May 6th through May 8th in Dallas, Texas. In these uncertain times, it's never been more important to grow your wealth and protect your freedom. Learn how to do that and more with today's top experts at Market Disruptors Live, May 6th through the 8th in Dallas, Texas. Save your spot now at marketdisruptorslive.com.
There's something for everyone on Discovery Plus. The streaming home of ghostly freakouts, muscle car spinouts, and 90-day makeouts.
I'm really in love with her.
Start your free trial today for exclusive originals and a huge collection of favorites.
Whoa!
Then dive into Nature Docs, geek out with the family, and get your grub on. I can eat this every day. The streaming home of true crime, paranormal, food, home, nature, romance, plus so much more. Discovery Plus. Start your free trial. Terms of...
Anyone can get long COVID, even Rob, age 22.
I got COVID in September of 2020, and a few weeks later, I started to have long-term problems. I used to run 5 to 6 miles a day. Now, when I walk up a flight of stairs, I'm gasping for air. It feels like my brain is clouded and I can't think straight.
Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is the best way to prevent long COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
He's one of America's most controversial billionaires, George Soros. All across America, Soros is funding far-left district attorneys for office. And once elected, these district attorneys oppose bail. They want early release for criminals. And in some cases, they won't even prosecute felony offenders. It's no wonder crime is spiking in major cities, and our police are under fire. Now, Rob Schmidt looks at the shocking situation on Newsmax. Tune into Newsmax and watch Rob Schmidt tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. And find out the real truth about George Soros and the dangerous district attorneys endangering our cities. You can find Newsmax on every major cable system. If your cable operator doesn't carry Newsmax, call them. Let them know you want it. Or watch Newsmax free on your smart TV. Or start streaming on Pluto, Zumo, Roku, and more. Millions are switching to Newsmax for news they can trust. Switch today and watch Rob Schmidt tonight.
In these uncertain times, it's never been more important to grow your wealth and protect your freedom. Learn how to do that and more with today's top experts at Market Disruptors Live, May 6th through the 8th in Dallas, Texas. Save your spot now at marketdisruptorslive.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to interact with the show, particularly, well, on a day like today. Friday, that is, for Free for All Friday, when we are taking your comments and calls throughout the program on, well, all the subjects going on in and around. There's more than we can ever hope to cover, even with the many hours we're on air a day and throughout the week. So, again, this is your time if you want to add in your 2 cents about, well, pretty much any subject. We'll take them on, though just keep it clean if you're calling in. That number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Couple calls on the line here that we'll squeeze in before we hit that next segment here. A lot of comments coming in online as well. Edgar Ortiz, Maria Kalman, John Brazelton, Stephen Christopher, Carol Rank, RANC, if I'm saying that right. Hope I am. James Radcliffe, and more tuning in, chiming in, dropping those reactions. Mr. Tipton, always appreciate it, near and dear to the heart here. So let's go back to those phone calls here right now. We do have Tom in Otero County here right now. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good afternoon.
Afternoon there. What's on your mind?
I got a big kick out of your previous caller there.
Mm-hmm.
What was his name? Raul?
One of them, yes.
Anyway, I just want him to let him know, got state income tax here in New Mexico.
Very true.
And he seems to be under the impression if he lived in New Mexico and took the Michael Jackson skin treatment, life would be unicorn and rainbows. But I'm telling you from experience, it just ain't that way.
Yeah, that bears out with most of what I've lived and what I've heard from people in similar situations there. I mean, among other things, yeah, property taxes may be lower in New Mexico, but of course the income tax that comes along with it. I mean, it's a little bit of give and take, but well, it's take mostly.
Yeah, I mean, everything the government issues to people or gives to people comes from someone else. They're not Santa Claus, you know. I just, you know, there's just no logic behind what he was saying, and it kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, the idea of the grass is always greener on the other side. Again, historical perspective, the idea that if we had, in the long term of things, been a part of that state, we would have maybe had more prominence within the state, as opposed to how, I mean, we're, in El Paso, the 19th largest, or were at least, I need to double check that with those census numbers, but in the top 20 of the largest cities in the country, and yet we're like the 7th largest within this state, versus New Mexico would be the largest one. I mean, there's some argument to be made there, but any reality of it would be, again, serious upheaval to the point of probably invalidating any gains, in my mind.
Yeah, well, you take a look at Albuquerque, and I'll tell you what, they have a lot of big city troubles.
That's true.
They really do. There's much worse crime in Albuquerque than there is in El Paso.
No argument there, having talked with some colleagues in broadcasting in the past there. So when it comes to TV in El Paso is what's considered an enterprise market, or it has been, meaning develop a lot of stories. You got to find the sources and deal with it, versus Albuquerque, which is a crime-driven market, meaning that they are just responding to what is going on that day in terms of the pretty wild things that sometimes happen up there. So, yeah, I don't live in Albuquerque for a variety of reasons, too, we'll freely admit.
I'm pushing 70, and I've lived in this area a long time, and from what I can see, the biggest thing El Paso could use is some really good paying, big companies to come in here that pay good job, have good paying jobs.
Oh, yeah.
So the young people don't have to leave, even if they go to college. All my kids, except for my son, he's 110% disabled vet. But my two daughters, they both graduated from UTEP, and they had to go out of town to get that good money that they earned. And college isn't for everyone either,
That's true, and that's an important point that doesn't get talked about enough here. But tell you what, we got to take that next break right now, pushing the top of the hour here. So I thank you for your point and your call here. We just got to get for that top of the hour news break here. So we'll talk more about this coming out of this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 10 Gateway westbound at Lee Trevino, an injury accident from earlier has got the lanes clear. The right shoulder still blocked, and it's causing delays. Gateway Boulevard southbound at the I-10, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder. 10 eastbound at Executive Center Boulevard, another stalled vehicle blocking the left side. El Paso medical crew and police on the scene of an injury accident, Dyer, north of Sean Haggerty. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with a new way to enjoy our beautiful planet. Energy consumption is a primary contributor to a changing climate, producing around 27% of greenhouse gases in the United States. Save money and energy at home by turning off your computer completely before you go to bed. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. One of 3 teenagers shot outside a New York high school is dead. The NYPD says a 16-year-old girl who was shot in the chest has died, while the other 2 are expected to survive. Officials say a male and 2 females were shot outside South Bronx High School. The White House is still considering a nationwide gas tax holiday. During a briefing, Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the option remains on the table and noted a number of states have done it in an effort to give give consumers a break from soaring gas prices. The White House is under growing pressure to do something to get prices down. Will Smith is reacting to being banned by the Academy for a decade. In a brief statement, the actor said, "I accept and respect the Academy's decision. The ban means Smith can't attend Academy events, including the Oscars, either in person or virtually." MSNBC's Steve Patterson says Smith's penalty is unprecedented.
10 years without one of Hollywood's biggest and most bankable stars at the Oscars is a long time compared to what many experts were saying or predicting, and it's a definable amount of time.
Smith slapped comedian Chris Rock on stage at this year's Oscars. The Academy called the slap unacceptable and harmful behavior. President Biden and Vice President Harris are honoring newly confirmed Supreme Court pick Ketanji Brown Jackson.
This is going to let so much sunshine on so many young women, so many young Black women, so many minorities.
The federal judge will be the first Black woman to ever serve on the nation's highest court. During a White House ceremony, the president called the confirmation a historic event and a moment of real change in American history. Wall Street is wrapping up another volatile week as investors brace for the Federal Reserve's tighter monetary policy. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. In what's been described by some as one of the world's greatest financial scandals, a former Goldman Sachs banker is convicted of bribery in the 1MDB fraud case. David Folk Thomas has more.
A Brooklyn federal grand jury returning the verdict Friday, finding 49-year-old Roger Ng guilty of all 3 counts against him. Ng was accused of taking $35 million in kickbacks in a scheme with Malaysian financier Joe Low and others to loot more than $4 billion from Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund known as 1MDB. The trial lasting 2 months, Ng facing up to 30 years in prison.
David Folk Thomas reporting. Border Patrol agents have arrested 72 people on 3 boats trying to cross into the U.S. near San Diego. The Border Patrol says they were able to stop 2 of the boats before they got to land and arrested the people from Mexico coming off the 3rd boat in Point Loma. A new report is predicting the Carolinas will see more intense hurricanes this season. Sarah Bartlett has the details.
Colorado State University researchers published their annual report on hurricane season this week. They estimate the Atlantic and Gulf coasts will see 19 named storms, which is 5 more than average, but fewer than the 21 named storms in 2021. According to the numbers, researchers say 9 of the storms could become hurricanes, with 4 of those storms categorized as major hurricanes. That's considered above normal activity and could reach a Category 3 or above. Hurricane season starts June 1st.
The Weeknd is taking Kanye West's spot on the Coachella lineup, but new details say he almost pulled out of the event too. Page 6 reports The Weeknd threatened to cancel his appearance unless he was paid Ye's reported $8 million deal, plus another $500,000 in production costs. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Millions of Ukrainian refugees have been displaced from their country. They need our help now. iHeartRadio has teamed up with Global Citizen, asking supporters around the world to use their voices to call on world leaders to mobilize urgent refugee relief and humanitarian aid. Join us this weekend for Stand Up for Ukraine. Find out how you can help by donating to relief organizations or by using your voice to advocate for support to fund this global humanitarian crisis. Go to forukraine.com and take action today.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples is a one-stop shipping solution for small business with packing and shipping supplies and services. Right now, get 15% off UPS Ground and 20% off UPS Express shipping services. Offer ends 4/30. Details at staplesconnect.com/services/shipping. Ship at Staples.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
iHeartRadio
wants you to see the Who Hits Back tour in the U.S. city of your choice.
We don't get fooled again.
We'll fly you there, take care of the hotel, get you 2 premium tickets to the show, plus the Baba O'Reilly VIP package. That includes too many things to mention, but trust us, it's amazing. For your chance to win, just open the free iHeartRadio app and listen to the Who Radio. Tickets to the Who Hits Back tour on sale now at livenation.com. See the Who in the city of your choice from iHeartRadio.
Millions of Ukrainian refugees have been displaced from their country. They need our help now. iHeartRadio has teamed up with Global Citizen, asking supporters around the world to use their voices to call on world leaders to mobilize urgent refugee relief and humanitarian aid. Join us this weekend for Stand Up for Ukraine. Find out how you can help by donating to relief organizations or by using your voice to advocate for support to fund this global humanitarian crisis. Go to forukraine.com and take action today.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on the social media and the various other places up there these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel, over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. We're up in all those places as to say that, the conversation about the things that affect us here in the borderland and beyond, as we do here on Fridays, is important. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in over here, a lot of thoughts here on the idea of local business, the state relations here, free for all Friday, we call it that because we have those open lines throughout the program, meaning you can call in, comment, and we'll deal with that throughout both hours of the show. Halfway through it now, we got a lot more to get to here. A lot of comments coming in from Andrew Zignorant, Louis Pinato, RJ, Edgar Ortiz, Maria Coleman, John Brazelton, Stephen Christopher, Carl Rank, James Ratcliffe, and more tuning in and chiming in. So I'll calls in the line as well. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Some comments on the idea of the, cross-state border relations. RJ over on the YouTube saying that Texas is strong and wealthy because of conservative government, not socialist policies. Louis Pinato going further about local government, saying that our city government is anti-business unless you're tied to, Foster or Jordan. Mentioning some well-known names out there. Remember when Western Playland was pushed out? A little bit before my time, but I had at least one birthday party at the old location of Western Playland. And, the new one going, ironically enough, over to New Mexico, now that I think about it. So, interesting situations to go there. And some mentions of GoFundMes. And, we're not talking about or promoting any of those. Welcome to do your own business on those issues. Again, if you want to check out the comments over on the Facebook page is the main one, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. We consider it. And that's where the Skeptic Squad lives. And the Thunderdome comments, is already going over there, and it could end up coming up daily here. So let's get back to those phone lines now, though. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. Just a comment or two on Raul's call today. My two nephews went to UNM, and they went on that program. But at the time they went, the GPA was to be 3.0. I see they lowered it down to 2.5. That gentleman just called in, so that's a big difference, 2.5 to 3.0. And at the time they went, their tuition was paid for by the lottery. New Mexico had a lottery, and that's how they paid it.
Oh, yeah.
And then regarding choosing an ethnic group that you want to live in, based on his scenario, we're all racist because everybody wants to do well. But,
sure.
I mean, that's crazy to ask a question like that. Who in the world is going to say, I want to be a minority? The answers would have put you up against the wall. But I was calling regarding the Governor Abbott's statements the other day, and everybody said it was a publicity stunt, and I think it was Stalker said it was a publicity stunt.
Yeah, Barbara, we're having a little trouble hearing you. Maybe you could try to get a little bit closer to the phone there.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's a lot better, yes.
Okay, how much did you hear?
I think we got most of the idea here, but you were mentioning there Governor Greg Abbott and his things. I mean, specifically, White House spokesperson Jen Psaki called it as a publicity stunt. And I mean, it doesn't have, in his own admission, not exactly a whole lot of teeth. It'll be a voluntary thing. So be curious to see if anyone takes it up on that. But again, I appreciate the idea of the focus on the issue regardless, because the idea of, Title 42 going away, well, we're done with the pandemic, so why do we have to worry about it, is, well, unrealistic in my mind.
Well, I spoke with Austin today, and I was told that a lot of these illegal immigrants just get on the bus to go anywhere to get out of Texas. So they think that the buses will be filled with those choosing to go elsewhere, even if it's D.C. or Delaware. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But, regarding publicity stunts, how many times has Mayorkas been to the border and said the border's secure, we're working and supporting our Border Patrol?
Mm-hmm.
That never happens. How many times have we heard Biden and Harris on TV, it's not a good time to come, don't come, the borders are closed, and yet they keep accepting everybody. So we need to put this in perspective, and there's misinformation and there's lies all over the place. And today, the chief of the DPS, I didn't get his name, was stating that the drug cartels are making $100 million a month just on smuggling. Has nothing to do with drugs. He said the drugs are a separate issue. And then he described today, or this week, should I say, they found 21 illegal immigrants in crates on a flatbed. Imagine now they're moving around in flatbeds. 39 illegal immigrants were found in 2 U-Hauls.
Yep.
And 11 were found in a 53 dry-foot van. And when they all got out, they said they couldn't breathe. And one of the drivers was actually a recognized gang member. But Mayorkas at a luncheon stated that the greatest threat to our homeland is domestic violent extremists, and the prominent threat are white extremists. It's not the 105,000 who have died from fentanyl overdose or marijuana-laced fentanyl or fentanyl pills, or now we have liquid fentanyl coming in. It's not that that's killing our citizens. That's not the threat. And the thing of it is, he goes on to say, that it's extremists. So my question to Mayorkas would have been, had I been there, well, how many arrests have actually been made, and how many convictions have been made, and how many have actually been imprisoned, other than the January 6th people who are sitting in jail without representation? So this administration, extremism how many have we heard of? Have you heard of, Andrew, the last 6 years? That would be President Trump, and here under Biden. I haven't heard of extremists going around and, I don't know, what does a white supremacist do other than hate? Do they kill? I haven't heard any killings. I haven't heard any mass killings, racist killings.
Well, I have to disagree with you on that point because, the August 3rd attacks that we experienced here, according to that gentleman's alleged manifesto, was, pretty well focused on that kind of an issue.
But
okay,
I don't disagree with you there, but I'm saying mass. When he's saying it's the domestic violent extremism, to me it's like it's all over the place and it's happening on a regular basis or frequently enough to claim that it's extremism and white supremacists and they're a danger to society. When has there been another one since August? I know they had the one in the gay club, I guess, in California. But it's not like they're happening 2-3 times a month. And we have 105,000 dead from drugs. And now, and when I was on the radio, they said that they seized 2 boats in San Diego coming in with 73 illegal immigrants. So they're coming by sea, they're coming by land, and then we're moving them by air. Does that make sense to anybody?
I guess the way I'll consider it is as this, that they are, I'm going to say they're both threats, but they're of different scales and almost different stages. Best way I can put it. Let me explain further here. The idea of extremist and white supremacy here, it's always kind of a simmering thing that sometimes pops up. There were some implications of the idea that in that whole Michigan case that, of course, has had now some acquittals that have happened with it. So not sure that was a good example as they were trying to put it forth here. But, I've done some study into this. I'm not an expert on it. I've talked with experts in terms of this, and well, there's concerns, but it is almost more local than national here. So I am concerned to a level about the idea of white supremacy and those kind of extremism. But I'm going to say that the whole immigration issue is specifically the drug issue. Yeah, that was the number one killer of adults here of under 45 in the United States as of last year. So that isn't as undeniable immediate threat to the populace of this country here. But on the immigration issue as a whole, I'm going to call that more of an existential threat to, well, just about everything here, because sure, the idea of everyone there being a threat is not exactly accurate, but the way and the overwhelming of our systems and the way it's being handled and just the pressure it puts on everything is an existential threat to the proper maintenance and how things are supposed to work here, if not going to be handled properly, which I am in full agreement that just the, nothing being done about a removal of Title 42 gonna cause more than a little bit of issues.
And could they be missing something like those two gentlemen that just arrested for having penetrated the Secret Service? One was Pakistani and the other one was Iranian. How did they get in? And this has been going on for 2 years. We're taking our eyes off the ball here. I mean, they were, lavishly giving money away to other Secret Servicemen. And then the question is, why didn't the two that were receiving these benefits from these two, from the Iraq and Pakistani, why weren't they reporting it?
I mean,
I think our eyes are on the wrong thing here.
I mean, you get a point there. Ideally, we would be focused on all of these things, actually, on the national law enforcement and, intelligence service level here. But clearly, we have some ground to gain in terms of public policy under this administration to see all of that really being handled here. Whether or not it was totally handled under the previous administration is up for debate as well. But seriously, really, all of these things are important. So the idea that, we should only focus on one and not the other, that's almost never how the federal government is supposed to work. We're supposed to have the capacity to deal with all of these things, but that doesn't seem to be, as much around during this administration here. So, we'll keep talking about it, and hopefully, at the very least, we might have some local action that can happen to deal with this, but then hopefully more people talking about it can get more pressure on our local elected officials and so on and so forth to see more done. I guess that's kind of the way I kind of think about it, but let's just hope there. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. I think we're going to get to one more quick one before we hit that next break. We have James on the west side here with us. James, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, how are you? This is James Peinado. Wanted to give an update to how ad hoc charter stuff is going and just make your audience aware.
Absolutely, yeah.
I understand that there's an ocean of upsetting things that are going on in the world, but I think that everyone has the most ability to make an impact locally more than at any other level. So we are now through 4 of our 9 meetings of this process. So there are 5 more opportunities for people to come in and weigh in on their city charter. And this is just a committee advising city council on what changes, if any, should be recommended to put on the ballot in November. City council will have the final say. But this committee will have, I guess, some weight because they've exhausted resources to have this thing go on. But unfortunately, there's not really been, in my opinion, a lot of input from the citizens who I know call into your show frequently about their views on what's going on with El Paso City government. And so the next meeting will be April 21st from 3:30 to 5:30, and it'll be every other Thursday through the first Thursday of June. Some of the things that we have voted on already, they have agreed that everything is up for brought back up again for reconsideration. And so I kind of hope that does happen. I'm not going to give my opinion on anything in particular, but my votes on these issues can be found at the elpasotexas.gov website in the minutes and whatnot. But So far, the board has voted 4-5 to keep elections in November. And that's something that I think people in the audience should think about is when we moved elections from May to November, think about the benefits from that and think about the cost. And I'd love to get people talking about that and then coming with their views to City Council about that. But we voted 5-4 to keep it in November. Another close vote that was, there's respect amongst everyone on the board, but we voted 5-4 to recommend to City Council to put on the ballot that we strip the mayor's veto and tie-breaking powers, sort of reducing him more to just being an at-large City Council member that represents the city of El Paso with other governments, other cities, the county commissioner's court. He'd be the mayor in that capacity representing the city, but his legislative powers would be more reduced or assimilated to being an at-large city council member more than a mayor with veto power and tie-breaking power. There's an impact to that decision if we go through with it. And so these are the sort of things that are going to be recommended to City Council. And then if the City Council likes those recommendations, they will put it on the ballot. And if that concerns citizens, because it takes money to defeat an idea, then the time to speak out is in these remaining 5 meetings. More information can be found on that website, elpasotexas.gov, on the board that describes the ad hoc charter advisory committee stuff. You can find videos of the past meetings to get caught up. I think the ones that cover the 2 votes that I just mentioned was from yesterday's video and the video from 4 weeks ago, the second Thursday of March. And then the minutes can also be found. If people go to the agenda for the next meeting when it gets posted, it has directions to how to, where to go to sign up to speak on an item, or how to call in, and you can give your testimony on any agenda item or speak on anything at the public comment period. All that instruction is on the agenda.
Yeah,
I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, no, it's a very important note here. Again, the website, a little bit long here, but elpasotexas.gov/ad-hoc-charter-advisory-committee, which is a long way to say, just search the Ad Hoc Charter Advisory Committee. Honestly, you just search that up on Google, it'll show up. And again, that next meeting being April 21st, and then the following remaining ones, May 5th, May 19th, June 2nd. There is a phone number that is listed on that site as well for people who want to get in contact directly with the committee. That is 915-212-0049. Again, 915-212-0049. And again, those committee meetings held 3:30 p.m. on those coming Thursdays. Again, everyone, like you said, at City Hall, 300 North Campbell, and the main conference room on the second floor. So if people want to get involved in, they should. If they are, saying that we've got issues here that we need to deal with, getting involved is, well, one of the particularly at the local level, better ways to deal with it. So appreciate the update here. One other item that has come out of that has caught my eye has been the idea of, changing city council salaries to be tied to the county's median household income, which is an interesting concept that has been discussed a few times.
Right. I'll say that there was an item that we discussed 2 Thursdays ago about changing the salary to protect the salaries of city council if there's a drop in median income. So we already set, I think, the salary of city council and the mayor to the HUD's median income of El Paso, and they were wanting us to review and consider some protection against a drop in income or salary if the median income goes down. But I made a motion, and it was seconded, and it was voted unanimously not to do that. So the board was unanimous on the committee was unanimous in that decision not to recommend that.
All right. Well, interesting stuff. I mean, again, this is going to be affecting how our city works going forward here. So important for people to get involved. So appreciate that update and your perspective on it as well.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
All right. You have a good one there. All right, we are overdue for that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls, comments, and all of that good stuff on the line here. You are, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for a crash blocking the right shoulder on Loop 375 westbound at Executive Center Boulevard. Stay left. Trans Mountain eastbound at the I-10. An accident reported there. Another stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder Gateway Boulevard southbound at the 10. Bob Hope between Pelicano and Vista del Sol at Esconbrenner Avenue. An accident there with medical crew on the scene. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Before your day is done, Brake Masters has already helped thousands of people get back to their families safely. Get your vehicle in Brake Masters shape. Download coupons at BrakeMasters.com. Only then can you say your day is done.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break.
Hey, spring is here, and the warmer weather means you've got a lot more going on. Don't let COVID get in the way of any of it. COVID vaccines offer the strongest possible protection now and from long-term effects in the future. Protect yourself and your plans. We can do this. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. That's vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
There's something for everyone on Discovery Plus. The streaming home of ghostly freakouts, muscle car spinouts, and 90-day makeouts.
I'm really in love with her.
Start your free trial today for exclusive originals and a huge collection of favorites.
Whoa!
Then dive into Nature Docs, geek out with the family, and get your grub on.
I could eat this every day.
The streaming home of true crime, paranormal, food, home, nature, romance, plus so much more. Discovery Plus. Start your free trial. Terms
How
apply.
many of you have pets? My hand's raised. Now think about how lucky you are to have such a sweet little pet in your life, and that pet is lucky to have you too. But unfortunately, there are countless pets out there that don't have a home to call their own. However, Bob's from Skechers is trying to change that. So we developed Bob's for dogs and cats to help pets in need. With every purchase of adorable Bob's footwear or fun, stylish apparel, or even the cutest Bob's pet accessories, Skechers makes a donation to Petco Love to help save shelter pets. And with your help, we've already saved the lives of over 1 million pets and donated over $7 million. So while you're getting style and comfort with features like Skechers' famous memory foam cushioning, you're also helping to save an adorable pet in need and helping another lucky owner be connected with a future best friend and companion, because happiness is having a loving pet by your side. Find Bob's at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, select Petco locations, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Those social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, are good ways to get your comments through. Well, mostly on the other three than Twitter. That's more of a DM kind of situation, but a lot of comments coming in on all these things. Louis Pinato, Andrew Zignorant, Raul Francisco Amaya, Louis Pinato, Maria Kalman, Carol Rank, Barbara Carrasco, RJ, and more tuning in, chiming here. RJ, give me a little bit of guff with my idea about setting of the city council on the ad hoc charter review committee, the idea of setting the compensation at a different level, like the city would vote for their own pay to cut, please. I mean, there's a reason. That's a whole nother story here, but there's a reason there's a difference in the compensation level set between the city and the county, among other things. County votes on their own, and the city is a, vote that we all make currently. So, yeah, there's some things to be said here. Maria Coleman saying, where is our current mayor? What is going on there? Interesting question to be made here, and a lot more comments. Also asking the gotaways in terms of immigration are a paramount concern. There are sources stating that estimates are double these reported. The situation is a security and it's a safety issue for all. Those individuals evade authorities for a reason. I don't get the issue of saying that we should know everyone who comes across the border. Like that whole kerfuffle, I don't understand why that shouldn't be a paramount focus, particularly in this day and age when the quote I didn't think I would be making. John Ashcroft, one of the former major heads of law enforcement and security in this country during a previous administration, spoke at my college back during my time there and talked about the change in lethality. That he was speaking in front of a largish podium about the size of and saying that the amount of lethality you could pack within that space now had so evolved over the years to be able to wipe out a city now that proactive as opposed to reactive law enforcement is even more important here. So, I mean, as much as I have issues with that particular gentleman, it's a valid point to be made when we're talking about proactive stuff and issues here. But tell you what, we got a short segment here, so let's get at least one more call on the line here right now. We do have James on the east side here with us right now. James, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, just a couple of quick things. I don't know if you heard recently our Congresswoman, she spoke in Washington about how she's on board with this Green New Deal business and turning us away from oil and gas and then turning us to batteries. Well, she has a refinery in her district, and it's a huge refinery. Actually, there's 2 refineries, and there's probably 1,000 people that work there, and there's real good paying jobs, and those people don't hoard their money in their house. They're part of the economy. They have big families, and so I don't know. It seems to me like she's not really representing El Paso in that respect, and I'm sure again Raul benefits from these customers, that are part of the economy here. And so it just seems to me like it's time for a change in El Paso. Like we've been changing, but they're on the same side of the aisle. And we have a chance for El Paso to really, go to the next level. And, we have a citizen candidate, not a politician. So I believe that, I really encourage everybody to really think about the example that Virginia set for us and for everybody else actually in the country. Just what a small group of parents, look what they did. They flipped a whole state. They went for Biden by 14 points or so. So it's just, something I think El Paso would greatly benefit from. Someone who's not plugged in politically, just a regular citizen candidate. And also I want to say, I heard there's a Democrat convention coming.
Yeah, 2024.
We think we can get Trump here on the same day, have a convention.
You might be a little bit busy that year. I mean, assumptions aside, no official announcements, but weirder things have happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to say, I think we have so much potential here, and I think until we really, do something, instead of voting the same way, maybe be a little more open-minded and think about the possibilities just keep in mind too. I mean, not everything you hear on the media is exactly true. I mean, no one's going to take away anybody's benefits or anything like that. That's all a bunch of lies, or if you earn them, you're going to get your benefits. So let's worry about El Paso and not try to keep people in power who don't have our best interest at heart.
I mean, you'll not find me arguing against that idea of people getting involved in doing it. Honestly, of all the places I've lived, worked, studied, looked at the political makeup thereof, I have never been aware of a community of a size that is more poised for people just getting involved to really make an impact, because seriously, we have dismal voter turnout rates. I mean, this is a soapbox that is well worn for me, but I feel like you haven't talked about it for a minute. So the idea of people getting organized, getting out there, and getting people to, particularly those people just that are not involved, because there's so many people just not politically involved in our area, even thinking about it, and just like taking a friend to the poll. Like if everyone did that, all the current voters did that, I mean, we would still be, not even near 0.5%, but I mean, still doubling it. I mean, that's a significant thing to consider going forward.
Yeah, it's something we should all really reflect on in the mirror and like you said, take 2 or 3 people, not just one.
Absolutely. I mean, I set my expectations where I think they're reasonable. If everyone took at least one more person to be ecstatic, but yeah, sure, 2 or 3, fill up the truck. Let's take them all. Just drive safe.
You got it, man. Okay, Andrew, thanks a lot, man.
No, sure thing. Yeah, there's no thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there. I mean, there's a lot that we get to here, and I thump the drum about making sure you're registered to vote and going out and voting. Again, just as a reminder on that, we got those city council elections coming up towards the end of the year, but also we've got those primary runoffs coming up here in May. So even if you didn't vote in the primaries, you still can vote in the runoffs. If you did vote in the primaries, though, you can only vote in the same party's runoff, just as a reminder note there. All right, let's take that next quick break here real quick. I know we got more people on the line, and we'll get to more of those comments, calls, and all of that right after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. A lot of comments coming in, a lot of discussion here, and we'll touch more on all of that as we continue Free for All Friday here on the program. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Stephanie Safer with your KFOX 14 News update. An issue with the jury led to the mistrial in the case of Ricardo Marquez, who's charged with killing Erika Gaitan. That's according to the lead prosecutor on the case. The trial for Marquez began Friday at the county courthouse in downtown El Paso. Marquez was charged for Gaitan's murder following her disappearance in 2019. She was last seen leaving a concert at the El Paso County Coliseum. El Paso police believe Gaitan was murdered based on forensic evidence. Police have not found Gaitan's body. A retrial date has not yet been set. Fort Bliss is reporting a problem with the water supply at William Beaumont Army Medical Center. The Post says hospital-wide testing revealed evidence of discoloration and sediment in the water. Fort Bliss adds the problem lies within the hospital's plumbing and not the supply coming from El Paso water. Beaumont says there are no pathogenic or biological concerns. I'm Stephanie Safer with your KFOX 14 News update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Now, less slow traffic for your Friday. I-10 westbound between Hawkins and Trowbridge. Stop and go, 10-minute delays. I-10 westbound between Wrestler and Mesa, 5 to 10-minute delays. An earlier crash still blocking the right shoulder on Loop 375 westbound at Executive Center Boulevard and Gateway Boulevard northbound before Dyer. An injury accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
In Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We've got clear skies tonight with temperatures in the lower to mid 40s and light winds, but get ready for this weekend and next week. We're talking about winds in the forecast, a stretch of winds, the chance for some patchy blowing dust starting on Sunday, lasting through Tuesday, with temperatures remaining well above average over the weekend.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples is a one-stop shipping solution for small business with packing and shipping supplies and services. Right now, get 15% off UPS Ground and 20% off UPS Express shipping services. Offer ends 4/30. Details at staplesconnect.com/services/shipping. Ship at Staples.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the Getaway Guru. Join me on the Travel Show every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. We talk all things travel, favorite places, how to travel more and pay less, secret hideaways, discount airline tickets and cruises, and the best travel deals on the planet. It's the Travel Show every Sunday evening, 7 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. And I'll tell you where to go and how to get there.
This weekend, Casa Buick GMC showers you with savings.
Casa Buick GMC is known for the city's biggest and best inventory of cars, trucks, and SUVs.
During the used car April shower sales event, we can make it rain with the best financing options and lowest rates available.
This weekend, we've added rental returns, lease returns, and even government retired units.
Examples?
2017 Chevrolet Malibu LS, $16,685. 2018 Chevy Colorado, $26,266. 2014 Hyundai Santa Fe Sport, $13,777. 2017 Mazda 3 Sport, $18,200.
This Friday and Saturday at Casa Buick GMC, Montana and Airway.
The uh-ohs are out there. Scratches, dents, unexpected natural events. But with Mako and their magic, your car is no longer tragic. So when life throws you uh-ohs, just say,
better get Mako.
And go to Mako.com to book your appointment today.
This report is sponsored by Mako.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of two people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, which is where we are on. And a lot of comments coming in on all of those ways. Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk are the names to find us on there. Most of those platforms here are RJ, Barbara Carrasco, Andrew Zignerand, Louis Pinato, Stephen Christopher, Maria Coleman, Raul Francisco Amaya, and more. Carl Rank a little bit earlier. John Brownson before that. A lot of comments coming in, tuning in, and chiming in there. A couple of comments I want to get to here. Stephen Christopher saying that in regards to Title 42, there are already 5 Democrat senators that have an issue with it, ending Manchin, Sinema, Tester, Hassan, and Kelly. This is unpopular even with Democrats. I want to say there's actually a bill being floated here. Let me see if I can find the right one here. Too much stuff to be focused on here today. There we go. From our news partners over at KFOX 14, that a new bill could be being put forth to extend Title 42 by at least 60 days. That's the focus here, the kind of the minimum length, but also that requiring a comprehensive and workable plan before lifting Title 42, which, sure, I'm not saying I'm opposed to the idea of that, of there not being just an end and being a replacement, but just saying from a lawmaker perspective that would be y'all's job to come up with that replacement workable plan, because we keep doing these executive actions, these executive orders that end up invariably in court in some way or another, depending on the administration and the opposition to it. So maybe pass a law. Just saying, do your damn jobs. Anyway, that's one just aspect of this coming here, but also RJ saying, commented a while back that El Paso is a blue city, and it is, but you said it's an apathetic city after seeing a few hundred district, a few thousand citywide voting for 40 years. Plus, I'm agreeing. Yeah, the way I put it is that El Paso isn't a blue city. It's not a red city. It's not a green, pink, orange, yellow, whatever city. It's a non-voting city. If no vote was a choice in the ballot, outside of, well, in fact, including 2020, one of the most contested elections of our time, when we did hit 56% voter turnout, well, the rest of that ballot, the 44% would have won every damn election in this town here. So we got a problem to deal with. So yeah, take people to vote with you. Just make it simple here. Make your plan to vote. So keep that date in mind for late May coming up here for those primary runoffs here. But let's go back to those phone calls here right now. We have Sergio in the Lower Valley with us here right now. Sergio, thanks for joining us.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. I'm surprised I actually made it to the air.
Mm-hmm. Sure thing. What's on your mind?
Well, I do have a concern, as far as the border crisis thing, or, the border thing. So
Sure.
I come from the Lower Valley, and I take the 375 border highway all the time. To the west side, northeast, whatever you might have. And I do not lie to you, every single day in the morning, there's people crossing the border, and it's kind of dangerous. They're crossing there. You literally see like 5-10 people crossing, like running from the gate up to the, like the other day on Tuesday, I saw them go towards the Paisano Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And they almost got run over.
I want to say though, yeah.
Have a problem. I just wanted to express that. I mean, I'm not too very politically savvy, but I do will note this. I used to think democratically, which was kind of a mistake on my part, until recently I became more conservative, and I never realized that I had conservative values.
Okay, I mean, I'm in favor of people getting involved more politically in whichever way they see fit here, because you're saying, sure, be involved politically, but only if you agree with me. Just sounds, well, we don't need that. We need anyone to do it. So if you found your values and what is driving you to vote for it, more power to you here. I want to say there was an incident within the last 5 years. Can't remember the exact date, but I want to say it was near Executive or Porfirio Diaz, that exit off I-10, where a gentleman, I want to say it was, that was crossing and had crossed illegally, tried to cross I-10 and ended up getting hit. So that has happened directly, and I don't drive the border highway the most often down in that regions, but there's been at least one time when I've gone down there, headed I guess technically eastbound on 375 near the border fence right there, and I've seen it was like 20 to 50, somewhere in there, I want to say, all up against, well, the fence in that section as Border Patrol was then, well, doing the initial, processing or whatever was going on there. That seemed more of the people going and trying to find law enforcement to present themselves to for that kind of asylum claim process, as opposed to what you're talking about of just darting through and trying to avoid any interaction.
And you know what? I've seen that too. I've seen them just walk to the border agents with kids, backpacks, everything, the full set, just like if it was a strolling park, And I get that I understand that, but it's kind of a disturbance in my commute. For everybody else, that does not look normal.
To agree with you there, and well, we got a lot of issues we'll be dealing with as we see these policies change. So I appreciate your perspective on it, but something we definitely got to keep our eye on as a community.
Yes.
We appreciate.
I appreciate this conversation. Thank you.
No, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Yes,
all right.
Trying
to get to a couple more calls here on the line here. Again, the number to call 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. One comment I wanted to get to that came in off air. Someone wanting to say that from an earlier part of our conversation that if you're going to be choosing your race and looking at a majority possibility, why not choose, well, Hispanic, given our community here? But then further on, a gentleman wanted to ask if that is such a bad thing, being anything besides the majority of a country, why are people of Hispanic, but also, I would add, all stripes, trying to then get into the country here? I mean, America is not perfect. I have yet to see a perfect man-made creation on this earth. But I do believe that some of the founding, some of the core and the values espoused, at least if not totally lived up to by the individuals that are then running the country, are, well, some of the best that exist in the world. I live here for a lot of reasons. Among other things, I'm not that great at other languages, but even going to other English-speaking countries, I fully am. I mean, my family has been long invested in the outcome of here. My lineage goes back to the founding of this country. My grandmother was a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and even further beyond that. I have the privilege of knowing that part of my ancestry and history, so I feel very connected and very much willing to say that this is and can be one of the best countries on earth, but we do have to keep working on it here. All right, let's try to get to at least one more call before we hit that next break here right now. I do believe we have Harry on the east side here with us right now. Harry, thanks for joining us.
Yes, hey, hello, El Paso. A great day here. Great callers, Andrew. Great show going. A lot of good, interesting comments and ideas. I want to counter something that Raul said, and he makes good presentations. There's no question about it. But let me give you a little bit of current history. The country of Africa right now has mercenaries traveling through the country, killing the citizens, the children, the kids, for whatever reason, who knows? A lot of it is on the news occasionally. Terrible things going on.
Yeah.
By the same token, you got whites in Russia are killing their white brothers and sisters in Ukraine. There seems to be, if you want to talk about equality, the point is that it has nothing to do with what country you're born in or who your parents are. It just doesn't. Okay. That's my counter. The next thing I want to say is local politics, okay, and voting suggestions. It's been said more than once that if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. And I would go along with that. Okay. I say step up and get into the contest. All right. We are very good at complaining. Oh, we're very good at that. But how about offering solutions that are thought out? How about remembering what John Glenn said, who was the first man in space, an Ohio senator for many years? He said, in order to be a successful politician, you got to have the right stuff. We just have to figure out who has the right stuff.
Yeah, it's also been said that it's easier to throw stones than to use those stones to build up something, and that does more often than not. I'm not going to say I'm expecting everyone who says, well, this seems bad, to say, okay, what is your concrete 5-part plan and exactly how would you implement every step of it? Like, no, I'm not going to go that far, but I mean, the idea of not just things are bad and I'm mad about it, going to, okay, so what do we do to fix it? At least changing that consideration, I think, might be more useful than not.
Exactly. So if you're not going to vote, You have no right to complain. That, technically, that may or may not be true. With the low voter turnout we have here, that might not be a fair statement.
Yeah, the way I think of it, that is you punching your ticket into the discussion and participation in public life. So if you're not even willing to do that, I make certain, not the assumptions, but let's say judgment calls. I think that's the better way to put it.
Exactly. And I would just like to end my conversation talking to all the great folks that love the city, county, and their country. Is what's on the agenda tomorrow for the El Paso History Show? And I know I'm not supposed to get personal, but I just can't help myself.
We'll tell you what, I'm happy to bring it up here because, that will be 10 to noon here on News Radio 690 KTSM tomorrow, Saturday. Going to be talking about the Cultural Heritage Society of the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, talking about the Camino Real and their upcoming event here, April 1598, the birth of the American Southwest with Al Borrego. So I was going to mention that at the end of the show, but might as well plug it here as well as any.
All right. Good luck and have a good weekend.
I appreciate it. You have a good one there, too. All right. I think we got to take that next break right now. Otherwise, we might not make it to the end of the show. So I know we got some calls on the line. We'll squeeze in what we can here at the end of the program here. At least we got, a lot more to get to, a lot more comments. We'll close out the show, get into what we can, and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 10 westbound between Hawkins and Trowbridge, you're looking at stop-and-go traffic and 5 to 10-minute delays. Westbound I-10 between Wrestler and Mesa, 4-minute delays. On Loop 375 westbound at Executive Center Boulevard, an earlier crash is blocking the right shoulder. And a crash with injuries, Alameda Avenue at Zaragoza. Take North Loop Drive or Penndale as alternates. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Before your day is done, Brake Masters has already helped thousands of people get back to their families safely. Get your vehicle in Brake Masters shape. Download coupons at brakemasters.com. Only then can you say your day is done.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break.
As the country bounces back from COVID and mask mandates are lifted, your business needs a lift too. Promote your company right here, right now. Radio ads connect with 93% of Americans every week. That's more than Google, more than Facebook, more than TV. In fact, radio reaches 20% more millennials than TV. Want more of the people you want to talk to all in one place? Visit iHeartAdvertising.com and get AM and FM working for you. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Hey, spring is here, and the warmer weather means you've got a lot more going on. Don't let COVID get in the way of any of it. COVID vaccines offer the strongest possible protection now and from long-term side effects in the future. Protect yourself and your plans. We can do this. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. That's vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
We're planning a trip to Spain later this year.
But our Spanish
is pretty bad. So we're using Babbel.
Babbel's conversation-based method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive, bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
There's no easier way to learn another language.
Ahora hablamos español.
He just said, now we speak Spanish.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents.
And Doug.
Don't you just love the smell of old books? Shh, this is a library. Sorry, ma'am. We're looking for a book titled Liberty Mutual Customizes Your Car Insurance so you only pay for what you need. I don't think we carry that, but check nonfiction. He really does devour literature. Please leave. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We are closing out the show here today, rounding the bend on our last segment. But of course, we'll do this as we do next week, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I appreciate the comments and the conversation we've had in a lot of these, but even if we're off air, you can still leave us, if you prefer to do that whole phone call thing, leave us a message by phone, and that's by dialing pound 250 on your cellular device. And then when prompted for a keyword, say Talk El Paso, and can leave your own message, well, much like this.
This is for Thea Frankie. I just heard that guy, Befuddled Ben. What is this monumental mush? He's going on and on about, that Biden was shunned because Barack Obama showed up. He was invited to the White House. Obviously, he's a guest. You shower the guest with more attention than you do with the current host. What's the matter with him? At least Barack Obama was invited to the White House. I don't think any Republican president worth his salt or constant brain power would ever invite the Donnie Dotard doofus. And if he did show up, they'd arrest him and put him in Guantanamo. That's where he belongs. And another thing, Befuddled Ben, they did show that on CNN and MSNBC, including YouTube, about your so-called dissing or embarrassment, supposedly, of Obama plus Biden, where Biden's supposed to be wandering all over the place. Well, guess what? They showed that. But I'll tell you one thing that your crummy stations, Fox Noise Network, offensive American news nuts and Newsmax nut jobs, they would never show the same thing for your boy Donnie Dotard doofus. No, they would never show that. So get off it, Befuddled Ben.
Again, want to leave your own message on your own subject there. Pound 250 and then say Talk El Paso. I mean, hospitality differences aside, like sure, guests are a focus here, but as a host, you're still supposed to be active and involved with it. It's actually, to that last point, I know it was meant a little bit partisanly, as you often do, but seriously, getting out the diversity of sources of information and not just going off one interpretation, because sure, there may be varying degrees of accuracy with any particular outlet. There are always editorial decisions that go for, so I don't subscribe to, outside of local sources, of course, with our news partners, any one perspective on this. I mean, I make the weird decision to seek out alternate viewpoints on all of this, and I know that makes me weird, but hey, it allows me to do what we do here. I think we have time for one more quick one here. We do have Nate on the east side here with us. Nate, we got about a minute.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. I'll be real quick. God bless you for you taking me in El Paso. I just wanted to say, I appreciate all the great comments. The gentleman spoke about having been a Democrat, and he found out these more conservative values. I can relate to that myself. And, of course, the gentleman spoke about the education earlier, that everyone don't need to call it education. I'm a big fan of that, at the same point in time, we're asking for debt relief on the people who are getting the college education but can't pay for it. And the last little thing, let's be careful what we ask for, I would say, because in the Bible it tells us that no good does it do man to gain the whole world when he lose the whole soul. And so those fundamental things, personal responsibility, we got to have a game plan, and that is, there are rules to the game and how we play to perfect chaos. Thank you for your time, Andrew.
No, sure thing. Appreciate the comments and the call. You have a good one and a good weekend there. All right, that's going to do it for our program here. We have gone through a lot this week, and we'll do it again next week. Some of the topics we're working on for you include more on border security, immigration, how we're looking at that from some potential analyses, and a whole lot more. But we'll have to do it again next week. So thank you to everyone who did tune in, call in, comment. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great weekend, y'all. We'll see y'all next week.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 10 westbound between Hawkins and Trowbridge, you're looking at stop-and-go traffic and 5 to 10-minute delays. Westbound I-10 between Wrestler and Mesa, 4-minute delays. On Loop 375 westbound at Executive Center Boulevard, an earlier crash is blocking the right shoulder. And a crash with injuries, Alameda Avenue at Zaragoza. Take North Loop Drive or Penndale as alternates. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
It's time for the Paso del Norte Gun Show. This Saturday and Sunday, April 9th and 10th at the Alameda Shrine Temple, 6331 Alabama. El Paso's original gun collector show continues to be a favorite event for gun enthusiasts since 1965. Check out ex-weapons and Western memorabilia. Trade, sell, or browse the gun show this Saturday from 9 to 5 and Sunday 10 to 4. Adults $7, ages 18 and under, $5 must be accompanied by an adult. No pets allowed, free parking. Don't miss the original spring Paso del Norte Gun Show.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690, KTSM, an iHeart radio station.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station. News on the hour and the half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Nearly 150 people are dead or injured after a Russian rocket attack on a Ukrainian train station. Russia's denying that they carried out the strike, calling the accusations by Ukraine a provocation. An official said around 40 people died on scene at the train station. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki called it yet another horrific atrocity. She also defended the level of U.S. security assistance to Ukraine, including anti-aircraft systems. The average price of gas is down 2 cents today. AAA says it now